this part because okay, so I think we are live. We've got our first comment. Lauren in the city, thank you so much for leaving a comment and joining. Anybody else who is here, please post a comment letting me know that you can see us okay. And welcome. So I've got a lovely panel of Cozy Mysteries authors, which I am so excited to talk with. Esme and Harper, congratulations.
This is Esme is the guest of honor, but I was very honored that she included me in this.
First comment, Lauren in the city, thank you so much for leaving a comment and joining. Anybody else feedback? Please is that just me? Comment letting me know that you can see us okay. Sorry, I'm getting feedback in my ears. So as long as you guys can't hear it, then that's okay.
I can hear it.
I
can hear it, yeah.
Okay. That's odd. Okay, let me mute myself really quick. Technical difficulties.
Esme is the guest of honor, but I was very honored. Oh, that's so... Okay, I think it stopped.
It did. I don't hear it.
Lauren in the city, thank you.
Would it be wrong if I had the camera like this so I could look younger? Is it possible? Or is it? I can't do this as I'm looking at myself. I'm like, if I do one of these, then you know I'm going my neck.
Well, if you tilt back when you click to your bookcase, okay, I'm never getting feedback. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm just going to drop this headset, and we're just going to go with regular audio. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
Oh, they're from everywhere. Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. How about
you sound good.
Okay, yeah. This is my first StreamYard, guys. I apologize for the technical difficulties. I was trying to get all the kinks worked out, but go figure, we still had a couple. So, yes, okay, looks like everyone is able to be heard. So let's start off and just kind of go round robin. I'd love for you guys to introduce yourself to folks. Tell us whatever book that you want to talk about in terms of the first one or your most current. And Esme, of course, we will start with you, and then we'll go to Harper and Catherine, and then Victoria.
Or Kim. Not included.
How about her?
Oh, you sound good.
Okay. Okay, Esme, you want to go ahead and tell us about your latest book, a little bit about yourself? We still had a couple. So, yes, okay, looks like everyone is able to be heard. So let's start off and just kind of go round robin. I'd love for you guys to introduce yourself, folks. Tell us whatever book that you want to talk about in terms of the first one or your most current. Esme, of course, we will start with you, and then we'll go to Harper and Catherine, and then Victoria.
Okay, well, first I want to say happy birthday, book day to Harper, because we're both sharing release days today. Esme Addison.
Okay, you want to go ahead and tell us about your latest book, a little bit about yourself?
Should we turn off our microphones while she talks?
Yes, please. So let's start off and just kind of go round robin. I'd love for you guys to introduce yourself, folks. Tell us that you want to talk about.
I'm hearing a lot of feedback and like delays.
Esme, of course, we will start with you, and then we'll go to Harper and Catherine, and then Victoria.
Okay, well, first I want to say happy birthday, book day to Harper, because we're both sharing release days today. Esme Addison.
Okay, you want to go ahead and tell us about your latest book, a little bit about yourself?
Should we turn off our microphones while she talks?
Yes, please. So let's start off and just kind of go round robin. I'd love for you guys to introduce yourself, folks. Tell us that you want to talk about.
I'm hearing a lot of feedback and like delays.
Of course, we will start with you, and then we'll go to Harper and Catherine, and then Victoria. Okay, well, first I want to say happy birthday, book day to Harper. Okay, there were clearly some technical difficulties. Let's start over. I am going to quickly pop everybody in and out. Okay, give me just a second. Okay. Hello. Can you hear me okay? Let's start over. I am going to. Let's do that one more time. All right, sorry about that, guys. We're gonna try and get people coming in here one by one. Process of elimination. Let's start with Esme. Okay, welcome back. I'm going to. Oh, I think it might be your audio, Esme. Actually, I'm going to take you off really quickly and start over.
Okay, sorry about that. Let's try this again. All right, you want to go ahead and say something? I'm adding one by one. I'm sorry about that, Victoria.
That's okay.
All right, next up, let's go, Catherine. I can hear you just fine. Okay, hi, Catherine. Feel free to go off of mute so that.
Sorry, I forgot it was on mute.
Yeah, we're doing the process of elimination. I apologize, audience members. We have to just find out who the culprit is. All right, so we're all good here. No kind of audio issues. I'm going to add in Harper. Okay, hi, Harper.
Hi.
People in one by one to make sure.
No, this is what it is.
Okay.
We're figuring it out together.
All right, last up we have Esme. Here we go. Hello again.
I got a error message to add earbuds. So I have earbuds, and I think maybe that helps somehow.
Yes, it does. We're good now. Okay. I apologize, everyone, but that's how the cookie crumbles. I think we're all good now. Even though we heard this message 8 times because of reverb, I'm going to say it again. But if you guys would all please introduce yourselves as well as your books to the audience members. We're going to, of course, start with Esme, then we will go to Harper, Catherine, and then Victoria.
Okay, can I talk?
Uh-oh, looks like your earbuds are the ones acting up.
Okay, my name is Esme, and I want to say happy birthday, book birthday day to Harper, because we're sharing the same release date. I have a new cozy mystery out today. It's called A Spell for Trouble. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. It's A Spell for Trouble. It features a trio of witches that work in an herbal apothecary in Bellamy Bay, which is a fictional town on the coast of North Carolina, and it involves the myth of the Mermaid of Warsaw and water witches and magic.
Awesome. We love magic. Harper, do you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about your happy book birthday?
Oh, thank you.
Your book
so
as
much.
well.
No, I mean, Esme, you had me at Southern Town. You have me at magic and witches and an apocalypse. I can't even say the word. You have like that and Worcestershire sauce are the two that I can't seem to say. So anyway, but I've been very excited about Esme's book birthday, probably just as much as my own. And we've been we were planning to tour all over the South together for a bunch of book signings, but now we're doing virtual, and I gotta tell you, this might have worked out even better. I don't know. So we're both thrilled. Thank you for having me. So I am new to Cozy Mystery. This is a debut book for me. To Kill a Mockinggirl is the name of the book, and I got to see Spencer, your fabulous recap for the show of the different books, and I promise you that the whole sort of going back to high school rivalry stuff is very, very. I almost wanted to yell out like it's just a small little trope. It's like a baby trope. It's like a baby
no, that's fine. Like I said, any kind of cozy mystery, I am here for it, especially when dealing with books.
Honestly, I love it. You're honest. So it's about her name is Quinn Kane. She comes from a bookish family. In fact, they bought like the local bookstore and took it over, and she repairs. She's a bookbinder. She had left the country for like a few years after college, like teaching English overseas just to like get some of her wanderlust. And she's back. And To Kill a Mockinggirl, I will admit it's a little bit of a revenge fantasy for me. I don't, usually believe in revenge, but, it's the mean girl in town who decides to just give her a hard time. And she's like, aren't we grown up? Like, haven't we passed this? And obviously, of course, she's the one who gets killed. And people think it's her. I do come from the romance space. There's a little bit of romance in this. It is not the main focus because, I got to be honest, I wanted to try something different. But it's her and her cousin who has turned into a nun, an Anglican nun, and they are trying to solve the mystery together. And the nun is someone who used to, hotwire cars and break into. So she has she's not a typical, I have to admit I was watching too much Call the Midwife when I was writing it. And so, but then I was, me, so I'm not Call the Midwife. So that's sort of how it all got blended in. But so that's a little bit of a taste for you. I talk too much, so just cut me off whenever.
I'm chatty Kathy too, so that's totally okay.
I know, I like your energy. I saw that smile, I'm like, I'm in.
Thank you. Catherine, you want to give us a little info about yourself?
Yes, sure. First, I want to congratulate Esme on her release today. I'm excited to read the book and congratulate Harper as well. Huge fan of To Kill a Mockingbird, by the way. So I just had a book release last Tuesday, and it was the 9th one in my Cookies and Chance series. Mine is a culinary cozy mystery. The main character, she comes from a big Italian family. Most of them are pretty wacky. She runs a bakery in Western New York with her best friend. And their trademark is they give out free fortune cookies with each purchase. And these fortune cookies, there's always some kind of hideous, terrible message in each one, and it always comes true. So she's kind of gotten off with the point saying, oh, there's really nothing to it. I'm just, that it's not going to happen. There's nothing to it. This is all in my head. But she attracts murder like a magnet, and she's just a disaster when it comes to that. So as much as this book, she's trying to stay out of it. And her father has this weird obsession with death. He has a casket in his house. He wrote a book about death. It's really strange. And he's an embarrassment to the whole family. But he actually has a blog that has followers, and they can't really figure this out. Anyway, in this one, he has a friend who owns a funeral home, of course, and the man has gone missing. And he asks her if she'll check into it. And she's like, well, Dad, I'm not a detective. So she tells him, no, you really should go to the police about it. So then he calls her the next day and he says, hey, I found Eddie. And she's like, oh, that's great. Where was he? He goes, well, he was dead in one of his own caskets at the funeral parlor. So she gets dragged in. Her husband, they have a new baby. Her husband wants her to stay out of this. He doesn't want her involved, but this is her father. She tries to stay out of it. Then, of course, danger hits and somebody in her family is threatened, so she can't stay out of it. And it's got a nice twist ending. It's a lot of fun to write, and I really enjoy writing the series. So lots of laughs, and I think we all need that right now. So.
Definitely, definitely. Oh man, I'm hungry already. And anytime we talk about food and cozies, I automatically want what they're talking about. So, Victoria, do you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and your books?
Okay. Well, I actually have two series right now. The first book is A Murder for the Books. And it's a Blue Ridge Library mystery series. There are 4 books out now, and the 5th one coming out in December. And there will be 6 and 7 because I just signed that contract. But that is set in the mountains in Northern Virginia, and it's actually where I grew up. It's not a real town, it's a fictional town, but it's based on the towns that I knew growing up. It's a small town, historic, and the main character is a librarian who takes over as director of a small public library, a Carnegie Library, for those of you who've heard of those. And it's an old building, and she gets involved with helping actually the sheriff's department because of her research skills. That's where her skills come in. She's a great researcher, and she uses print and online and everything to help. And then she physically gets involved too, of course, because it involves her family. And her boyfriend, becomes her boyfriend, is a little bit unique. He's not a police detective. He's a dancer and a choreographer. And and I would say in book 5, which I don't have yet because we just finished edits on that, there may be a wedding, so it kind of moved along to that. But the book that's coming out in June is called Booked for Death, and this one is also set in a small town, but this time in North Carolina, and it's coastal North Carolina. It's near Atlantic Beach, but it's a small town called Beaufort, and this is a real place. You can actually go there. We visit that area every year, and so when I was thinking of writing a B&B based mystery, because this is set at a bed and breakfast that has a literary theme where they do special weekends and weeks celebrating authors and books at the B&B. And I thought, well, what small town would be interesting and fun? And Beaufort is a really cool town. It's very historic. There's houses that date back into the 1700s. There's buildings there. There's an old graveyard that has, fascinating history to it. There was pirate history. That's where Blackbeard's ship was grounded, and the Queen Anne's Revenge. So there's all kinds of fun stuff I can play around with, and that's why for this series I chose that particular town. And that book comes out in June in ebook and audiobook, and in July, we hope, in hardcover. So things are delayed a little bit with the hardcovers for Esme too and Harper because unfortunately COVID strikes again, but hopefully, that won't deter people from buying books.
Okay, so all of these books sound amazing, regardless of if you're a cozy mystery fan or not. I know Esme is having some technical difficulties with her audio, but let's actually, somebody asked, well, a couple of people actually asked some questions that I think would be great for us to answer to kind of set the playing field, because I'm not sure who in our audience is familiar with what exactly a cozy mystery is. Somebody actually asked, Lauren, actually, thank you for your question. She said that she's just getting into the genre and actually hasn't read a cozy mystery yet. And so she wants to know how cozy mysteries differ from regular mysteries. So I will let you ladies kind of explain what you think the differences are. I could wax poetic about it because obviously I am a fan of the genre, but Harper, if you want to just give us maybe like one trait that you think helps differentiate cozy mysteries from.
Have you met me? Do you realize like one sentence just doesn't happen? Okay. First of all, you have two grand dames of cozy mysteries with Catherine and Victoria here. So I really feel like it. I mean, no, in all seriousness, I mean, we are here because they were here first, and they're just some of the best that's out there. So I'll give one thing. Besides the fact that you have to read Victoria and Catherine, of course, Esme too, because we're the new ones coming up. But cozies, what I love about cozies and what differentiates it's you're getting the murder without the gore. It's more like a caper. It's a lighthearted approach. You know, a lot of people will cite Murder, She Wrote as an example. So one thing.
Yep. Awesome. Okay, so that's just one thing. Victoria, we all know that there's multiple facets, but what would you say is a key element in a cozy mystery to either differentiate it from a regular mystery or just make it extra cozy, I would say?
Well, there isn't gore and there isn't explicit sex. Most readers do not want a lot of swearing either. I find ways to get around that because I say they let out a string of, whatever
Yep.
words without using the words, because I know that offends a lot of people and I don't want to do that. And I think one of the things is that cozies can really appeal to a wide range of people because, younger people can enjoy them, but also my mother, who's 88, loves them. And I think one thing that you can bring in is a lot of age groups in the story. And that's what's cool because it's a small town. So a lot of times with mysteries, you have a procedural or something, and you're going to have that one sort of age group, not, you don't have the 70 or 80-year-olds from the town or whatever. And so I think that's cool too. You've got young people in the story, you've got older people in the story.
Yeah, that's definitely something that appeals to me as well, especially you're talking about like the different age varieties. In terms of something that I know I love is the kind of quirky characters in books, and they do typically range in age. So that's definitely something that appeals to me when I'm reading different cozy mysteries. Now, I know we kind of like a checklist of things that make books cozy mysteries, but Catherine, is there anything in particular that is maybe a favorite of yours or a trope of yours that you think qualifies a book as a cozy mystery?
Well, in my case, I have currently 4 different cozy series, and usually the main character, the protagonist, is a younger woman, 20s, 30s. I have one series, this is about a real estate agent. She's married with kids, the Cindy York Mysteries, where she's actually in her mid-40s. But that's unusual. It seems to be, for the most case, that the character is 20s, 30s. She has an interesting job, a baker, a real estate agent, a bookbinder, runs a bookstore, something of that sort to go along with it. But as I was talking about the ages, it seems for the most part that publishers don't really want heroines who are older. And I think that they're interesting to write about at that age. I don't think that they all should be 20s, 30s age. I think that with age comes more wisdom. So that's one thing I would like to personally see a lot more of. But it seems that the younger characters register with most people. So
You know, and it's so interesting that you said, please
No,
go
I just
ahead.
wanted to jump in and say the publisher though did accept my book for death has a 42-year-old main character.
Nice. Yeah, and you know, it's very interesting that you say that, Catherine, because I mean, I'm sure no doubt there's been research that goes behind that, but like, I forget which of you mentioned it, Murder, She Wrote, you know, or even
exactly.
Miss Marple, we've got older
Love Miss
heroines,
Marple.
which, right, who doesn't? So,
I know, right?
I like a sassy grandmother figure, you know, younger people as well. Again, any age range. So, okay,
the older
so
ones can get away with more too. I think.
I feel so, right? You know,
I'm finding the older I get, the more that comes out of my mouth, and I don't get as much trouble. So, which I think,
you're right.
Oh yeah, they're so sarcastic, and it's just great.
I wouldn't want to be 20 again if you paid me. But and I'm doing this in my character, and I know Esme's character. I think yours is young too, right? So
yeah, she's 28.
Yeah, mine's 20.
Yeah.
But I did that on purpose because I was hoping that, you know, we could see the character age through time, you know, that it was just a series.
Right.
And
Yeah, that's a great point.
You know, sort of, you know, just because I do want to see her grow older and how she has different, I think that a 40 or 50-year-old is going to have a different response than a 25-year-old, hopefully.
For sure.
Right. And I enjoy both. It's one of the few places where I think it's not quite as ageist. I think that a range, because that's life. We have a range of people in our lives, right? I mean,
absolutely.
So I guess
I think I like it when the cozy has different characters of different generations. So there's somebody for everyone to relate. You know, there's a grandmother character. There's someone like there's like a mother. You know, in her 40s. There's like somebody in the 20s. So I like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. That family element. So glad to see that we've got you back. Hopefully, knock on wood, audio is resolved. So that is actually a perfect segue because I wanted to ask you, Esme, obviously with your new book out, what was your inspiration to not only write a cozy mystery, but more specifically this one, which I would say is that kind of fantastical niche, since we know there are different cozy mystery niches.
Right. Well, I love cozy mysteries. Like I'm just a big, like a fan of cozy mysteries. Like I love them. And I actually discovered them probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And I've been read them. I love them. I mean, I've always been a writer and I've written other things. I've written, you know, romance, I've written young adult, just kind of, you know, practice novels. But when I was like, I'm going to get serious, what do I want to write? And I wanted to do cozy because every time I would read a cozy mystery, it would make me want to like stop reading and write something. So I knew cozy was the genre for me. And I also really like the fact that it's, you know, it's pretty wholesome and it's, you know, I just like coziness. You know, I like tea and coffee and knit shops and main streets and like I love that kind of stuff. So I wanted to kind of create that for myself.
We have cozy adjacent lives.
Yeah, I think we're sisters from another mother or something. We're also actually, I saw you have a birthday coming up. My birthday was May 1st, so we're both Tauruses as well.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, happy belated. And happy upcoming.
You look a lot younger than I do, but that's okay. I still love you anyway. Friend, I promise. Yeah, May 26th. I'm very Gemini. So
Gotcha. Okay.
It's all good. Yeah. The big 5.
Maybe Taurus with sun rising or something. I don't know.
Who knows?
I'm sure you guys are compatible on an astrological level in one of the horoscopes.
There you go.
So the inspiration behind the cozy, I knew that I wanted to do, I mean, I've written a lot about this, but my husband is Polish American and I wanted to do, I hadn't seen anything with the Polish American family and I just love, like his mom and dad are just really wonderful people. And I don't know, I wanted to kind of capture that close-knit family. And like whenever I would visit them, they're actually in Poland now, but when they were in the States, I would come visit and she would just like cook nonstop, like crazy. And like, it was just, you know, and like feeding me and just like giving me coffee and just like, this is the hospitality and just very warm and loving. And I thought I would like to capture that in a story. So I started researching different things in Polish culture, because I wanted to do something that was a little different if possible. And when I found the Mermaid of Warsaw mythology, I was like, what? How is this not already a story? You know, and I came up with the idea, and nobody was trying to buy a mermaid cozy. Trust me. They're like, this is not going to work. And when I went to when I was at Cricket Lane, the editor there liked the story, but they were like, can you tone down the mermaids and maybe make them, you know, something
mermaids
else?
They hook me.
Yeah. And I just thought, like, really realistically, I was like, what if they lost the ability to shape shift, and they probably still have certain powers, and they would probably be considered witches in the society. So that's just kind of how I went with it. I love it. I love the way the book has turned out.
It's a really original way of going about it. Goes to show you, you know, people say, oh, you know, certain things are, you know, especially when you're in genre fiction, people tend to categorize it as sameness. But I mean, just this group alone, everyone has a very different way of going about even some things that are like, we're supposed to, you know, some of us here are small town, Southern, you know, cozies, but the way Victoria does it is an extremely different way than obviously Esme did it. And that's one of the things. And I will give a shout out to Crooked Lane for that, because they encourage that. They're not looking for the same version of it. And Catherine, I mean, come on, who the father with the casket. I mean, that's just one of many things that she's done. I mean, I could go on about other, I mean, you know, she brings her Italian background into it, and with Western New York, you know. I come from South Florida, which is the 6th borough of New York, and my family are New Yorkers. So I've got half Southern girl and half New York broad.
What a combo! You always got something good for dinner. That's for sure.
That's why I'm a plus size. That's my power. But I mean, you know, there's a lot of different, you know, people, you know, there's not a lot of, you know, Italian death loving, you know, cozies out there. And Victoria is just, I mean, we all here. I mean, I can go on with beyond just the people here, but it really shows like Esme's creativity with taking something small town, bringing in Polish folklore. Hello, you know, I mean, it's excellent. It's just excellent.
Well, you know, I always think it's funny because one of the favorite characters in my series, I've heard from people, is in his 70s, and he happens to be a bisexual art dealer who may be a cook.
Amazing.
And
very dark.
One of my favorite characters to write because I love him. So there is room for variation. I mean, I don't think, you know, there's this image of cozies as being just this one thing or very limited, and I don't think that's true. I think there's a wide variety out there.
I think it demands more of a writer, that you're not going to go for, I mean, trust me, I went for the gratuitous sex and cursing in my earlier career as a romance writer, and I'm glad I did it. I enjoyed that experience, but I became a better writer when I had to remove that stuff and then get into the characters and what have you. I couldn't rely on, you know, now that stuff can be fun, but you know, I kept turning to cozies. Like I was in this other genre, which I still love, but you know, I kept reading cozies and I'm like, what is this saying to me? And because of the storytelling is just so exemplary, and it's, I'm sorry, my phone just went, but you know, so I feel like I'm really excited for Lauren in the City, because you are about to there's nothing like discovering a genre for the first time.
Oh yeah. And there's something literally for everyone. And one of the things that I love about cozy mysteries, I find that there's almost like two camps, where if you are looking for something specific, you know, be it, Victoria, I'm just going to use you, for example, you want to read about a librarian or anything about books, because that just gives you the warm and fuzzies. You've got so many great authors and series to choose from. But then on the flip side, you can also discover different tropes, or rather subject matters that you have no idea even existed. For example, Esme, I don't know jack about Polish folklore, but I love discovering books that way because then I learn so much about it with the detail and with the description, and even just things as simple as the mannerisms of the characters, depending on what culture they come from. It really is something for everyone, which I adore.
That's one of the things that I love about cozies is the themes, the hobbies. Like when I first started, I went on like a wine theme rampage. And then it
why not?
And then it was just like beverage. Then it was like whiskey, and then coffee, and then. But you can find I went through this phase when I thought I wanted to be a knitter. I didn't, but I wanted to read about it.
Same. I thought I wanted to do so many things.
Yeah, so I just read knitting cozies and get that. But yeah, I love that aspect of it. And with A Spell for Trouble, I think herbal remedies is there's a very strong element. Like we talk about herbal remedies, teas, what they do. You actually get a little bit of education.
Talk about timing, by the way. Can I just say this? One of the things I like about that, I mean, okay, no one wants to have a book come out during quarantine, but Esme, people are replanting victory gardens, going back to herbal remedies. People are very upset that they can't just go, order it or go down to the drugstore anymore and have it. So you I don't know, maybe you have witchy powers yourself, something that I'll be able
Perfect timing.
It ends up being you're kind of on point here, I mean, who would have thought?
Yeah. And speaking of just kind of going down that vein of just herbal remedies and stuff, I wanted to ask you so that you can kind of chat with us. What kind of research did you do? Because, obviously this is more in depth than knitting or, just to use your example, or wine, which would be fun research, by the way.
Yeah. And before I get started, I'll say, I know that in Victoria has a lot of library research stuff in hers. That's something, I worked in libraries, so I actually like that aspect of it. I know with Kathy, there's a lot of she's got great recipes, things like that. And with Harper's, when I first started reading it, I didn't realize it was about bookbinding, and so that's a whole other subject, which is
world.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Well, I had to learn it too.
No, I know.
Wonderful.
I like anything to do with books, even if old books and that kind of stuff. I like that aspect of it. I did have to do a lot of research because I'm actually an herbalist myself. I make remedies. I talk about it a little bit online, but I have 3 boys, and my middle son was born with allergies 12 years ago, and I really got into just making medicines for him because I was so hypersensitive about what I had to give him. So I just I started researching this. I've had 12 years of researching herbal remedies and what kind of essential oil I can find to fix something, if it's possible. Of course, I still go to the doctor when I need to. So I had a lot of kind of base knowledge, but then when I wanted to do something, very specific, in the story, Aunt Lydia is always making, and Alex, the main character, they're always making teas for certain things. So for example, I knew if I wanted to do a stress relieving blend, there might be lavender and chamomile. It's kind of I think everyone knows that, maybe, I don't know. But if you want
I didn't know that.
If you want something really heavy duty, I had to research the types of herbs that would actually affect the nervous system, that it will help increase immunity, something that would help with your stress, the way your body processes stress and things like that. So I did do some extra research, but I had a good foundation.
Oh, that's awesome. So I just want to, I'm going through the comments here, and we've got quite a few questions, but one kind of popped out because I think each of you ladies touched on it just a little bit, but somebody wanted to know how inspired you guys are by real people when creating your characters. And, Esme, again, I know you touched on your mother and father-in-law. Did they have any influence, or even just people other than them? And then, obviously same goes for the rest of you ladies.
Well, I'll tell you, the pilot light on my hot water heater went out yesterday, and the man that came to fix it is going to be in my book. He was great. He was just
amazing.
No, but I mean, I don't always do that. But sometimes you meet somebody and you think there's an element of their character that you want to, like, steal for your.
Mhm.
And he just was just kind of. I live in the South. I live outside of Raleigh, but there's a lot of Northerners here. It's very rare to see like authentic Southerners, honestly. And he was just this like good old Southerner. Like I don't know. It was just like I hadn't seen someone like him in a really long time. I was like, I gotta put him in a book.
That's hilarious. Victoria, what about yourself? Have you ever kind of integrated real life people into your book?
Not so much individual people, but as I said, my first series is set in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and I grew up in that area, the area that I describe, which I've fictionalized but is based on reality. So I tried to depict the people. And one of the things very important to me, actually, and I think cozies do this better than some other things, having grown up in a rural area, small town, the people are not stupid hicks, and I refuse to present them that way. And I sort of go on a mission, I guess, with that. But I mean, I grew up in a town that's so small, it still doesn't have a blinking red light, much less a stoplight.
Oh,
And so, it was very rural. My grandparents had a farm that we lived across the field from. So there was a lot of that in my background. And yet my grandfather could quote Shakespeare by heart. He knew how to ballroom dance. I mean, there's people that I knew were very, very intelligent, whether they'd gone to college or not. And so to me, part of it is important is to show all these different kinds of people in these smaller towns, and that they're not stereotyped as one thing or another. So that's something I draw from, and also trying to depict the people in Beaufort. I was very careful with that. I mean, I got to talk to the police chief there. He actually sat down and talked to me for like so it's like I liked the idea that let's show different characters from different backgrounds and not pigeonhole them the way they do in a lot of media sometimes, unfortunately.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I heard some pups in the background, so I'm not sure, Catherine, if you're able to answer this. Totally okay. I shut the door so mine wouldn't pop in, but if you're okay to answer, I'd love to know a little bit about, because I know, again, it seems like your books are heavily influenced by your family. Have you ever had people who, when they find out you're an author, kind of want you to add them into your book?
It's kind of just the opposite for me, actually. I have a day job, and I think that everyone in my team that I work with, I've used their name at some point in one of my books. So like my old supervisor was a disgruntled bakery worker. One of my former bosses was a food critic who wound up dead. This all happened. It wasn't that I had some axe to grind. So for the most part, they seem to enjoy. A lot of them do read my books and everything. I don't know that I've ever really had anybody ask me if they could be in one. They know I write about murder, so they're probably afraid for the most part. But no, I really don't think. I just include them whether they want to be or not. So. As far as if anybody, I've based any characters off of anyone I know, it's just funny that you asked that, because I was actually a guest on a blog today, and I said that my father was actually kind of the inspiration for the father in the Cookie series, except my father was not loony like that. But when my father owned a business, he went to numerous wakes. I mean, at least once or twice a week.
Wow.
There's a big respect thing, obviously, in an Italian family. And even if he met the person once, he would always go. And I remember my mother laying out his clothes at night for him when he came home from work, and he'd get cleaned up and he'd go out to the wake and everything. And one time she even said to him, well, you didn't even know that man. And he said, doesn't matter. It's a matter of respect. And I kind of, like I said, used him as the basis for the character, and just kind of ran with it. And like I said, my father was really nothing like that man apart from the wake thing. So just want to clarify. Sorry, Dad.
That's very fun.
So I'd love to know, because I feel like when it comes to cozy mysteries, depending on what the book is, oftentimes it almost seems like the setting can be its own character, because a lot of times they'll either be set in like small towns that have very distinct personalities, or even somehow larger cities that still feel kind of small. So let's start with you, Esme, in terms of, excuse me, Bellamy Bay. What made you decide to set it not even just in a small town, but this specific place? And yeah, just give us a little info on that.
Well, it's a mermaid, so it had to be the beach, right?
Obviously.
No, I agree that setting is really important. Like I read books based on the setting. You know what I mean? Like the cozies. Like I want it to be in the Virginia mountains, or I want it to be in like the, whatever. But that's really important to me. But I knew that I wanted to do something with the North Carolina beach. Like I'm from North Carolina. I love the beaches. They're beautiful. I spent a lot of time there. And I just knew that when I did a cozy, I wanted it to be small town on the beach. And the question was, do I want it to be Outer Banks or I want it to be further south? And I decided on this area because the area is between Wilmington, North Carolina, and say Jacksonville, where there's a Marine base. And I actually lived at that base for a while, so I'm very familiar with that area. But it was specific to that location because there's a Marine base in the story, and I just wanted it to be kind of in that area. There's stuff that will be happening that's related to that, but I like that area, and I thought it would be a good location. But it was important that it be, by the ocean.
Yes. I mean, who doesn't want to be by the beach, either reading about it or in real life? So Harper, what about you? What kind of influenced you to set yours with your setting?
Well, so it's Vienna, Virginia, which is a real place, and I live there as we speak. And the bookstore in the book it's modeled on our local independent bookstore, Bard's Alley. I call it Pros and Jones. So I actually worked there. I still am technically on the payroll, but trying to come in and out. But I worked there for a while because I wanted to know what it was like. And honestly, this was my this book in this series is my love letter to Vienna, Virginia. And it's not a small town. It's really not when you look on paper. But it feels that way because people tend to stay, like I'm in the northwest section of that town. And those are the faces that you see all the time. And when I first moved here, people said it has the charm of the North and the efficiency of the South. And I was like, oh no, but I fell in love with this place. The people are compassionate and they know what's important. They're well read and they have the Holy Spirit in their heart in a good way without being preachy or critical. And I was coming in as this loudmouth Jewish girl from Miami and San Francisco. I am not type here. I am not I'm not the typical Vienna, Virginia person. And they let me in, and I have been grateful for that. And it's got sort of you're close to DC, but you still have small town feelings. We have the Freeman House, which is we have all these historic places, and but yet you're not that far away from other sorts of, if you want the more modern conveniences. But it's really the people, and they are the series. I actually have in the book, they're called the Clink and Drink Ladies. And that's actually based on my real friends. And that's a nickname that one of the daughters gave our Friday happy hour group, the Clink and Drink. And that's real. All the women in the book in that group, they're not a main part of the story, but they're an auxiliary part of it. They're all hybrids of friends in that group. So, and I actually I did teasers like on my Facebook page saying, who do you think this character is based on? Or what do you think this place is? This, which coffee house do you think this is? And, you know, people like that. And the good news is that all the jerks are people I make up, and all the good people are people that I live with. So, you know, it works out.
It works out.
Yeah,
Thanks.
exactly. Well, you don't want to poop where you eat either. So, you know, that's you know, but there's really, I mean, honestly, I've gotten to live all over the country, and it's just sort of the best of everything. I'm very happy. We're very happy here. So, and I hope people get to fall in love with Vienna the way I have, like through the series.
Yeah, well, that's one thing, like I said, that's great about Cozy Mysteries when they describe where the places are. And Victoria, I know you and I were chatting about this before we went live, but you know, places that you wish were real. And in fact, sometimes places that you guys write about, or not you guys, but, you know, authors write about in general, are real. So I just wanted to ask you, Victoria, what made you decide to, you know, make yours, model yours after a real place, or rather, more specifically in the series that you did model it in the South?
Well, the interesting thing, the first series, I have to correct you because it's really not the South. This is something that is sort of funny. I grew up in Loudoun County, Virginia, which is close to Vienna.
Yeah. And the South. It's for a New Yorker / California girl. This is the South. So.
I'm a California girl.
But when I was growing up, I consider myself a mountain girl.
Okay.
It's different. It's a different culture, and I'm not really. In fact, the county of Loudoun, and I mentioned this in the books, split halfway down the middle during the Civil War, and the northern end of the county, which was small farms, went with the North, and the southern end of the county fought for the South because they had more like plantation, bigger farms. So my family is in the poorer northern section, and my grandfather used to joke about I'm not fixing the roads in that area after, you know, for years, because the county seat was in the southern side. So I grew up really conflicted about, you know, that whole thing, and it really does feel like a different culture, and that was something I wanted to examine. And so setting it in Loudoun County, which is actually like across the river from Maryland. I mean, we used to shop in Maryland all the time. So there's really, it's a different feeling than where I live now in North Carolina, which I consider the South. Beaufort, though, being a coastal town, is a little different too. It's just that each place has their own special air, and you're talking about Vienna, or you're talking about the coastal areas of North Carolina, and they're very different than, you know, what people might think of as sort of a blanket North Carolina area or something like that. Because the cool thing about Beaufort, as I said, is it's so old. I mean, it goes back before the Revolutionary War. People were there with a harbor, and all that history really carries down into the town, and I think it makes it different. One thing I like to do in all my books is I bring in history. There's always a historical mystery that's tied in, at least one, maybe more than one, into the current mystery. And so as they solve the current mystery, they also solve some historical mystery. Okay. And that's been true in all of my books so far. And
that's what kind of crazy when there's history.
That's why there's like historical places, because they have that history. I can
Yeah. Speaking of history, Lauren actually asked a great question that I think goes perfectly with what you just said, Victoria. And Esme, I'd love to hear your answer to this. But What is your goal when, let's see what she says. What is your goal when coming up with your actual mystery to be solved? Like, do you work backwards? Are you purposely, when do you try and trick the reader? All that kind of jazz without giving away too many of your secrets, obviously.
So I always want to trick the reader. I never want to know. That's number one.
So many red herrings, of course.
I actually, when I write, I don't know. I know who the suspects are, but I don't know who is the villain.
Oh, wow. Wow. So when do you stumble so for this book, when did you find out who the actual culprit was?
When I wrote the very last scenes, I figured out who it would be. Yes, I make it so that any of the three, the four suspects could legitimately be the bad person. And I keep it a secret even to myself. So I don't want to put in anything to consciously give it away. Yeah, but sometimes then I'll think I'll know who it is. And I'm like, and it ends up being somebody
different. Yeah.
Yeah, another person that's like, nope, I did it. That sounds crazy, but that's how I like to do it.
It does, but that sounds so interesting because, it seems like you would obviously be compelled to keep going. So at the very least, you yourself could have those ends tied up. That is so interesting. Okay, so Catherine, tell me, in terms of how you work, is there a particular way that you kind of plot out or figure out how you're going to make it the mystery portion of your books?
You mean as far as the killer and that sort of thing? Okay. I guess I tend to work backwards. The first thing I have to know is who the killer is, and then I go from there. From there, I get the suspects and do the rest of the mystery. It's kind of funny, too, because I can't really proceed with the book before I have a good title in mind, too. And the story sometimes usually works its way around the title. But it's funny that you should say that because the book that I'm working on now, I have another series about an Italian chef, and I'm writing the third book in that series. And I thought I pretty much had the idea of who the killer is, but as Esme was talking about, I'm thinking that it may not work out that way, that I may change it. And I did it for my last book too. I had finished writing it and I said, it's just something there just doesn't seem right. I think that the killer needs to be changed. And of course, sometimes you can get kind of lazy about it. Like, oh, maybe I'll just leave it that way. And I was like, no, you can't do that. You know that this person has to be the killer. So it doesn't always work out that way. And it's funny, too, because in this last book I just wrote, too, for the cookie series last week about the icing on the casket, I thought I knew who the killer was, but I ended up changing that as well. So I guess it just anything is possible, I guess, basically. So anything is fair game.
I have a question because I have had cozy readers sometimes say, like, some people really don't want to know. They want it to be layered enough with enough so that they really like that they're surprised by who the killer is. And then I have other readers who will say they get almost annoyed, like they want to be able to figure it out. I mean, so I almost want to ask that of the people who are watching. Like, do you have a preference? Like, some people like the idea that they get to figure it out, and some people want the surprise. I'm just sort of curious what readers out there, where they're leaning towards.
From what I've seen personally, I think most people like to figure it out for themselves because I've seen reviews in the past. Oh, I guessed the killer early. And I was like, oh, shoot, I was sure no one was going to guess that. So I think for the most part, I can't speak for everyone, obviously, but I think that they do enjoy going along on the mystery part of it and figuring it out for themselves. And I think they like to be proved wrong. But
for sure. And I will say, I know that the things that I love about cozy mysteries, even if the mystery aspect of it is something, because I've read a whole lot and I've watched a whole lot of Murder, She Wrote. So it takes a lot for me to be surprised, but that does not ever stop me from enjoying a book because, like we've discussed with all of the different elements of cozy mysteries, there's so many other things to enjoy aside from the mystery. you know, be it whatever the particular theme is or the setting. And so I feel like all of that combined together is just like this amazing trifecta. And if I'm shocked at the end as who the killer is, I mean, that's just obviously a bonus gold star for the author.
I think you have to balance, like, that there's enough clues, and this is the hard part. I mean, I think this is really difficult.
Yeah.
That you've given enough clues that I wouldn't like something to come out of nowhere, like, oh, all of a sudden somebody wanders up the street and they're the killer, you know. But
That's
you have to balance that with not giving it away too early. And fortunately, I have a great editor who helps me with some of this too. She'll point out.
Who's your editor? Who is your editor at
Faith Blackross is mine.
I have the same one. I love her.
Yeah.
Awesome. All editors are the unsung heroes, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, the editors do a lot. And that's something I'd like to mention. You know, readers may not understand how much work goes in, not just from the author, but editors and the line editors and the people who work with all the concepts for the book. And they don't always get recognized, but they can really point out things. I mean, it's our books, and a good editor lets you speak your words. You know, I mean, but they'll point out something and say, you know, I guessed that a little too soon, or could you possibly change this a little bit? So maybe it's, you know, harder to figure out a certain thing, but you still got the clue, but you're not giving it away. And I think, you know, that is another aspect of the story that it's kind of like a team effort. Like, and I come from the theater. I have a theater background, so I see that team effort. And you're going to put on a production, you're going to need a lot of people to do it, and it's not just one person. The author is the main person, but there's a lot of people putting in a lot of work to get books out.
For sure. Yeah, I wasn't an editor in the past life, so I know it's a very fine line. It's a lot of moving parts. So I know that we're at the top of the hour, but there was one kind of fun question that I wanted to do round robin before we hop into the giveaway. Somebody asked, this was a while back, so let me scroll, and I'd love each of you to answer this, but in terms of they say a sleuthing competition, but who do you guys think would solve a mystery first? Would it be Miss Marple or Rosemary and Thyme? So I'd love to know, kind of round robin, what you guys think. Who'd come out on top?
Esme, what do you think?
Yep.
Well, I don't know. I'm not familiar with Rosemary and Thyme.
Oh no! Okay, so then let's dial it back then.
Ms. Marple, I guess.
So I guess we can keep. So then let's go with Harper. What do you think? Well, are you familiar with Rosemary and Thyme?
Yeah, but I haven't, not as familiar as I am with Miss Marple. I was a Miss Marple fan. Look, I grew up in South Florida. Everything stopped for Miss Marple and you know.
Okay.
So I don't say that I'm not back into the state of Florida. So
let's switch it up then, because I feel like Jessica Fletcher is definitely one of the queen of mysteries. So Victoria, in terms of Miss Marple versus Jessica Fletcher, who do you think would solve it first?
I don't know. I mean, I think it would be a tie almost, right? Because I mean, they're both very similar in a sort of deductive way. Although I think Miss Marple is a little more cerebral, I guess, in her deduction. But you know, I'd give it a tie, actually.
That's fair. Catherine, what about you?
I have to admit, I'm not really familiar with Rosemary either, but I'm a huge Miss Marple fan, so she has my vote.
It sounds like she'd be the unanimous winner then.
Absolutely.
I'd have to agree, though. If it were Miss Marple against Jessica Fletcher, I would probably call it a tie, but I have a certain fondness for Murder, She Wrote, so I'd have to tip the scales in that just because of the nostalgia. Okay, so I know we're a little bit over, but there are some giveaways for the people who are still tuned in. So each of the ladies has been generous enough to give away a free copy of their book. And so if you guys want to enter, if you just want to tell me, you know, what your favorite cozy mystery series is, or which one you're looking forward to reading in general, post it in the comments, and the first 4 people I will choose to give away each of these women's books. So let's fast fingers, folks.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, so well, while we wait on that, I just wanted to thank you ladies again for tuning in. And again, Esme, congrats, Harper, as well. Esme, I'm so excited about the mermaid aspect because, like you were mentioning earlier, that is something, at least for me, that I've never come across. And the herbal medicine portion of it is also something that I think is going to be really interesting. You know, we talk about learning different things in cozy mysteries that we aren't familiar with, and so kind of tuning into that and learning, as well as being you know, taken on a ride, I think is going to be fun for everybody to read. So I'm so excited for everybody to read it. And ladies, if you want to quickly pimp out each of your books, let's see, let me let me go over to the comments here. So we've got Crafty Mamacita, we've got Abigail, we've got Crosby, and we've got Lauren in the city. So, oh, and we have Helen. So we're just going to go ahead and do all 5. So if you guys who have left comments could leave your email addresses, actually I'm going to leave my email address here for you guys. You guys can email me and then we can hook up. I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Thank you guys so much. Are there any kind of parting words that you want to share with myself or share with the rest of the audience?
Just want to thank you for hosting.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Really, it was. I'm so excited to talk about books anytime with anybody, but to talk about books with the actual authors is just
great.
So exciting.
It's a lot of fun.
This was good.
Yeah, I appreciate it so much. So, okay, so
I just want to say thank you to Victoria and Catherine Harper for doing this. You guys are some of my favorite authors. I love your books, and if I have to recommend, I would definitely recommend people read your books. I love them personally, so I'm just happy.
I'm looking forward to reading yours as well, and Harper's, and more of Catherine's too.
Mine is Southern Feminist Smartass. That's with a dog named after RBG. So Ruff Parker Ginsburg. And she's a German Shepherd, you know. She's
a German Shepherd.
I'm calling.
I know we both have that going on. It's so funny.
Yeah. I'm calling Book for Death a beach read because why not? You know, it's a beach read.
Right. You can't go wrong with it. I think they just need to order all these books because they
let's do that.
They're all such different flavors. It's like you can't choose.
Right. Why don't?
You don't have to.
I mean, the upside of being stuck at home is that you've got extra time to.
I've been saving my sanity. That is for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Escapism at its finest.
And subscribe, people. You can subscribe to this channel.
I guess I too should kind of think about myself. Well, if you're watching, obviously, please subscribe if you enjoyed this chat. I do have a cozy mystery video series in which I kind of give lists talking about different cozy mystery themes, and so if you
She's also on Instagram. She has a really beautiful Instagram.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I'm going to leave all of my information as well as these ladies' information in the description box of the YouTube video. So you're free to follow them, follow me, buy their books, obviously. And so for the people who I left your name in the comments, send me your email address and I can hook you up with free copies of the books. And I guess good night, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Good night. Bye. Congratulations again.
Yeah, happy
congratulations. Thanks for having us. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye.